everyone. I hope you're excited to journal today. I really love where this piece is. I came and looked at it first thing in the morning before I even had time to begin to think of journaling, and just wanted to see how it looked once it was dry. For the record, it's actually not dry. It's still damp. It's not wet, but I can feel a certain amount of moisture in the paper, just like before. So it's gotten really saturated. It's taking a long time to dry. And since we've got that shiny gloss medium on there, there you can see it pretty well now. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to get a sense of these things on camera when they're shiny like that. Just a second. No, Sassy, don't eat cords. We don't eat cords. Cords are not toys. Okay, the good girl. Yes, go ruin mommy's chair. Okay, so I don't want to work on this until it is dry. And to be completely transparent, I still might not work on it right after it is dry. I feel like it needs more stuff, but I haven't figured out yet what that stuff is. And that happens with me a lot. Like, I look at something, I like the position it's in, I know it's not done, I don't know what I want to do with it next. So generally, when that happens, I just put it to the side. And that is one of the biggest benefits of having a bunch of different and different kinds of journals to work in, is that I can do that really easily. I can just say, let's get you out of the way for now, and come back a little later and see if anything pops up for me. And that's exactly what happened. When I realized I wasn't going to work on that today, I started looking through my other journals, trying to figure out what I might want to work in. And I found this little beauty. So this is some paper that I gel printed on, and then I used it to create this cute little envelope. I glued it, and then I stitched over the glue so it's nice and robust. And it holds this adorable little concertina journal that I made. I'm trying to remember, I did this online in a session with somebody, and I'm blanking on that artist's name, but I will browse my email and see if I can find it and put it in the description below. And she makes lots of little concertina books like this, and this one we made in the session was vases. I'm gonna cut out this little template or stencil to use to create different shapes, and then continued to cut its size down and shape down to get variation. And then we have this delightful little window here, and you can see I traced out those vases across all of these pieces of paper. And then I did a lot of mark making. I've been doing a lot lately of playing with brusho crystals and paper artsy infusions. So both of them are essentially crystal pigments that you can apply. You can use them a number of different ways. My favorite way usually is to add them to an area that's damp, and then let them move on their own, and or put them on the paper and then spray them with water so that they start to bloom and move. And oftentimes I will use a skewer or varying other tools to spread them around, and I obviously used a skewer a lot on this one. So this is Paper Artsy Crystals, or Paper Artsy Infusions Emerald Isle, and all of the Paper Artsy Infusions are made with walnut crystals, the pigment and the walnut sort of dissolve at different rates, so you get interesting results from that. And then these are my brusho crystals. I put them in these little squirt bottles so that they're easier to apply than just shaking. I can get slightly more predictable placement, but what I love about them both is that they are very messy and unpredictable, and they allow me the opportunity to get really loose and play. And so with both of these, I have done a lot of different water-soluble media, and I've actually covered over all the sides with transparent gesso. And gesso, for those of you who are not familiar, is an acrylic medium that's used to prep surfaces for painting. It can be really great when you work with mixed media. Hi, Sassy. This is Sassy. She wants attention, so she's probably going to be in the shop for a few minutes. But the transparent gesso is great for playing with water-soluble media, at least in my opinion, because it is still going to move that media around as you apply it. But then when it dries, it's going to seal it so that it doesn't continue to move. And so what I have now is a surface that's sealed. Sometimes I find with the crystals, if I play in an area where there's a lot of concentration, or with any of the water-soluble media, there still might be a little bit of movement, which I think can be quite fun, if it just is that heavily concentrated. And there's also a lot of tooth. If you feel this, it's kind of got a rough texture to it. And that means that it's easy to put additional media over top and have that media stick. So this is one I really love where it is, but, and I same thing as the journal piece we've been working on. I've gotten it to a place where I really like it. Yes, girl. But I knew it needed more, and I wasn't yet sure what, so I put it aside. And then what's on it, excuse me. What's honestly the best part is I haven't looked at this for probably a month. And I picked up the little pouch, and I was like, I can't remember what's in here. And I opened it up and saw these vases and got really excited and immediately knew what I wanted to do to them next. So if you're anything like me and you do that a lot, where you do some work, you really like where it is, you know it's not done, but you don't know where it needs to go next, or you're scared of messing it up. Honestly, a lot of times the best thing you can do is put it aside, work on something else, and then go back to it. And oftentimes you'll be inspired by your own work so that you can work on it again. All right. Sassy looks like she's going to take some time here and not leave me alone right away. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I am going to go ahead and pause the video while I give her the attention she deserves. And then I will restart when I think she's going to let me paint. All right. I think Sassy's going to let me work as long as I let her stay next to me and look out the window. So let's give it a try. So the main thing I want to start by doing is right now, when you look at these, you can see the vases, but there's still not nearly enough contrast between those focal points, those vases, and the background. So I want to start pushing that background back more by lightening it up. And I want to be able to preserve as much of the color and line and all of this wonderful mark making in the background. I don't want to lose that. So I'm just going to start with some acrylic ink in titanium white. It's basically just really, really, really thin ink-like acrylic paint that I can use. So it is permanent. It's going to further seal anything that happens to still be a little bit soluble. And it should allow me to push back that background, but not lose it. And I've got some water back here that you can't see, and I'm trying to keep Sassy's tail out of it. And I'm just gonna start painting around these vase images. And I don't know how much of this will get done today in video. I'll probably do some of it off camera as well. But this is definitely where I want to start. I have a couple of other ideas, potentially, but until I get this background knocked back, I really won't know what else I want to do. A lot of, I'd say the majority of the work that I do is in response to what's already on the page, and so that's why I often like to start so loose or with collage backgrounds or other marks or colors or things on that page, is essentially gives me something to respond to right off the bat. Oh, she's trying to take the, so I put this butcher paper down. Hopefully it's a little bit more pleasant for you than looking at my messy desk. I certainly think so. It's also not as reflective with the light, and I generally, even with the large window here, don't get enough natural light in my room to feel like I should try to record without supplemental light. So I have some light on, and that I think causes a reflection on the desk material. Anyway, Sassy is trying to play with the tape. Oop, yeah, be careful. We don't want to get ourselves, no, we don't drink the water. She really likes the thought of drinking paint water, so I have given her a clean water jar nearby, and I just always make sure that my acrylic water is closed up and that my dirty watercolor water is at a level that's too low for her to drink from, because she, for whatever reason, she doesn't love water fountains or bowls, but man, does she love, I'm telling you, she's an art cat. She's an art cat. She likes paint water. So I did accidentally get just a little bit of ink on that particular sort of a jug, more of a jug than a vase. And that's fine, because I can go ahead and when it dries, clean it up and sort of redraw that line in. That's one of the joys of working with mixed media, is that I kind of have a whole bag of tricks with different art supplies that do different things, so that I can solve all kinds of problems that crop up during the art making process. And so I try really hard not to stress too much about getting everything perfect and feeling like absolutely every paint stroke, every line, everything needs to be perfect. It's just another way in which I can focus more on making marks, expressing myself, and less on some sort of ideal of perfectionism that I will never attain. So I think you can already see the difference where I have put the white ink on that one panel. I feel like there's already a much better difference between that jug and that background. It's certainly much more of a focal point that stands out from the background rather than sort of fading into it, which is what I feel like was happening before. So I'm just going to continue to fill that in. And Sassy is going to continue to watch. And this is how I love to paint, when she's being real sweet and just wants to hang out next to me. As long as she isn't getting her tail in the paint or trying to eat the supplies. She does like to chew on things from time to time. As long as she's just sitting quietly and being a part part of the process, I'm pretty happy to have her here. So, oh, I don't like the way that line went in. I'm going to try and smooth it out. And I can, again, go back later and clean it up if I need to, so I don't have to worry about working super tight and feeling like I've got to be super precious and work with a teeny tiny brush or anything. This is already a fairly small brush. It's a size 6 round brush. I'm using, this one is a Silver Silk from the Silver Brush brand. I really like these. I got them on sale though. I probably would not have sprung for them if they weren't on sale, and that's just because I really try not to be precious about my brushes, especially my non-watercolor brushes. I'm a little bit more willing to shell out funds for my watercolor brushes, largely because I do try really hard to use them only for watercolor and take really good care of them, and so I have a thing of brushes that I use only for watercolors, and then I have all the other brushes, and this is one of the all the other brushes. And in fact, I really love that because some of those cheap or old brushes that are not as nice produce really cool marks. So I actually love having cheap brushes that don't get as much love as the watercolor ones that are in my arsenal as mark makers of a different kind. And but this one's nice. This one's really nice. So I still try and take care of it because I like it exactly for these kinds of activities. Yeah, so this is an area where there was a lot of crystal still hanging out, and that means it didn't all get sealed under the gesso, and so it is saturating this white paint. So this will probably be an area where I will want to go over again, unless once it's dry I look at it and decide that I like that additional strong blue that's popping up there. All right, Sassa, you ready to do the third panel? I think we'll just do this side on camera, and then any other work where I'm pushing back the background I'll do off camera, so you don't have to watch the whole process. And then we can come back when it's dry, maybe tomorrow, and see if there's some other things we want to do with that once the background is pushed back a little, including are there areas that need a second coat, because this is another one where there's a really strong concentration of blue that's mixing with the white. It's really pretty. It is covering up the mark making somewhat underneath, but again, I might like it once it's dry, because I do like the color, and it is still it's still got some of that translucency that I wanted from the ink in the first place. So if the background's even enough, this might be fine. All right. Just a little bit more on here. With acrylic inks, a little really goes a long way because they are so fluid. And one of the best things best pieces of advice I have is just less is more, work gradually. Otherwise you may end up with a very heavily saturated page that you end up having to like take a lot of the ink off with a paper towel or something, and I don't want to have to do that for a number of reasons. I don't want to smudge the piece. I don't want to waste the ink. So I always just start with a little and then add more as needed. All right, this last part over here, and then if it's dry enough, I may be able to go right back over the earlier panels anywhere I want to add more. It dries so quickly, which is really nice. So let's see what we got once we get that done. This is the drawback of using a somewhat tiny brush, as I'm trying to cover a fairly large area here, and it's slow going. I could pull out another brush, but I don't feel like it. Oh, today is definitely, I've had a kind of a low energy week. Sometimes I have tons of energy, and that's usually when I make my more finished pieces or more representative pieces or things where I feel like I have all of the creative energy, the brain power, the stamina to kind of just sit and really work on a piece, if not exactly from start to finish. You know, do things that are a bit more fiddly or require more thought and planning than something like this, where I just, you know, I pulled it out and went, I'm going to cover that background with white, which is, you know, not a very complicated thing to have to think about. But you know, if you're trying to paint an octopus or a seahorse with a full and detailed background, using watercolor paint, you gotta put a little bit of effort into the initial sketch, probably the overall color palette, picking out your paints, making sure everything's prepped in the right consistency, etc., etc. You know, if you don't do that, you still might end up with something good, but a lot of times most of my really intentional work takes more effort, all kinds of different ways. So when I don't have that kind of energy, these are the kinds of projects I love to do. It's just that sometimes I miss doing stuff that's a little bit more finished. So I'm really hoping I can get some of that energy back. I also think it probably makes me more interesting to watch and listen to. Yeah, I'm just going ahead. This is dry enough that I can go over the area that's really blue, and put a little bit more white in right away. And it's still blooming. So there's definitely a lot of brusho crystal there, which is not a bad thing. I love brusho crystal. I love how unpredictable they are and how they do this kind of thing even after they theoretically should be sealed and staying put. I just think that I don't know, I love art that's unpredictable. So there we are. I'm going to do a little bit more here and here. So I'm just going to try and figure out how to turn this to make it easy to paint. I have a lot of water on my brush, which I did not realize. I forgot to kind of wipe some of it off when I rinsed it because I wanted to get some of that blue off. That's okay. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I really love this little concertina book. Where did I put, oh, over here. All right. So one of the other things I thought about when I looked at this page for set of pages in this little concertina journal booklet thing I got here, I really like this yellow vase here. It's got this cool swirly thing going on inside, and I like that too. This time I know there's water on my brush, but I'm just trying to make sure that everything blends out from where I put that white down. Anyway, I thought it might be nice. Yeah, that's the one thing I will say about the butcher paper. It's gonna get messy too, but I'll replace it periodically so you don't have to stare at the mess all the time. I thought it might be nice to add more yellow in there. I have to decide what medium I want to use to add more yellow in, because again, I don't want to cover up the marks that I've got there so much as just pull that vase itself together a little bit more. There we go. So this is already so much, I think, so much more successful as a piece to look at with that background pushback, but you really still can see a lot of the marks that are in that background. They're just not the first thing that your eye notices, but there's so much texture and depth back there from having them made in the first place. So I am going to do the same sort of thing with the other 3, I don't know what I call them, pages, sides, and then we'll come back tomorrow and most likely pick this one up again to see what else we want to do once that background is a little bit quieter. If you have any thoughts or ideas, if you have an idea of what you think we should do to take these forward now that we've started to knock those backgrounds back, I'd love to hear it in the comments. So please post any questions or comments you have there. Again, I'm going to try and find the woman I did this with so I can link to her stuff in case you're interested. She does tons of these concertina journals. It's really cool. And then yeah, if you want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so that you get all the updates. And I will see you tomorrow, and Sassy may join me again. Thank you.